On Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, how does the Scottie Barnes Brandon Ingram pairing compare to the Scottie Barnes Pascal Siakam pairing? That question and many more from you, the freaks.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, April the 18th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can follow my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out. Great little listener community we got building around the show. You can also subscribe for free to the daily Locked On Raptors newsletter, which is full of quotes this week from the end of season pressers from your Toronto Raptors, from the players to Darko to Masai Ujiri. Go check it out. Much appreciated. And we'll tell you at the end of the show how you can win some stuff simply by subscribing to this very free thing. What a wonderful deal that will be. We'll get to that later on. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And we are off and running here with a mailbag edition of the podcast. I put out the call because it's the week after the season has ended, and it was a lot of time spent going back and forth to OVO Athletic Center, and I'm tired, okay? So we got you to make the content and sent in some great questions. So thank you to the listeners who did that. Of course, the Discord is always the place to get questions in for the mailbag if you want to do that in the future. And here to field some mailbag questions on Kyle Lowry, on what we do if we could snap our fingers and fix the Raptors in one offseason, and much more, is our dear pal, Katie Heindl, the grand poobah of the Locked On NBA newsletter family, among many other things. Katie, how the hell are you?
I'm good, man. I'm coming out of a cold, some type of sickness that really rocked me. So I'm going to mute if I still have to hack at any point, but I'm good.
The people like coughing, right?
No.
They're cool with that.
I don't think that counts as ASMR.
I'm sure there's some freaks out there who are like, oh yeah, cough it up. That sounds great. Give me those. The more wet the lungs sound, the better.
I mean, no shame, you know? Like, people like what you like as long as it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to yuck anybody's yum. Let's dive in here, Katie, to some listener questions from those in our lovely, not at all unhinged Discord that definitely does not need some tangible, actual, real-life happenings to take place before they go insane. This question comes from Ben Chapman, one in the Discord, who asks, there's obviously different players on the roster around them, but how do you feel about the Scottie Ingram pairing versus how you felt about the Scottie Pascal pairing? I'll go first on this one quickly, Katie. I think, look, how I felt about the Scottie Pascal pairing was Pascal Siakam was one of my favorite Toronto Raptors of all time, and I really wanted them to make it work. It didn't work out. They moved on from him, and things are fine now. I feel good about the Scottie Ingram pairing in terms of the fit. I've really come around on that. I was concerned at the, outside of the trade when it all came down regarding the fit and the overlap in their skill sets and how they play. I think everything you've heard out of the team has been pretty encouraging. Everything you've heard from Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes regarding adaptation, Scottie just being thrilled he gets to pass more again. I'm pretty bullish on how this is all going to work. It's going to take some time for Brandon Ingram to reach Pascal Siakam levels of, just deep appreciation on my end. But I'm pretty bullish on how it works. And I think the team being better around them is just going to lead to better results than the Siakam-Barnes pairing was capable of. What say you to this one, Katie?
Actually, I was thinking at first, like, oh yeah, what a different pairing, especially I was thinking in terms of confidence, right? But then I actually stopped myself because I think some of the things that would annoy me, not to be negative right away, but that would annoy me about Pascal Siakam were the fact that, his like reticence to finish sometimes.
Sure.
The way that he would kind of like peter out in the lane, even though like he had a lot of size on defenders, he had a lot of length on defenders. But I think that became sometimes as signature as his spin move was just like him giving up basically. And I think that's been a huge criticism of Brandon Ingram, right? It's just like he's more of a quote timid player. But I do think that has to do, we haven't seen him fully healthy, in quite a few seasons. So I think on that level, it's a weird comp, but like there's not a lot of difference. And in some ways, it is like a fully new pairing to me. I think it enables Scottie to be more of the leader, and I think with Pascal he wasn't.
Sure.
He's gonna have to be the point person between the two of them. Ingram doesn't really demand the most space, and I think he's gonna be more of like a quiet co-pilot.
Sure.
I'm very curious to see it happen. I will say, for the anyone thinking I've been negative about Ingram, I actually am quite an Ingram supporter in the sense that he's really grown on me in the past few seasons. The times we have seen him on the floor in New Orleans, and I'm very hopeful to see what the Toronto staff can do with him in terms of his health, and consistency there, because I really do think that's all that he needs. I know a lot of people think this is still like a risky move, a risky trade, but this really reminds me of like, it's a chance, right? It's like you are rolling the dice a bit, but it's a chance in the margins. And those are the kind of athletes that the Raptors still have to rely on to attract. And I think there could be some really good dividends from this if Scottie Barnes sort of steps up more into that leadership role. Yeah. And if, again, Brandon Ingram, think of him as like kind of the tiller, the quiet tiller in calm waters.
I like it. And yeah, I think the Scottie leadership thing, I mean, by all accounts, from the players on the team to Darko to Masai, like that was probably like, as much as he made a gigantic defensive leap this season and the offense fell off a little bit, like the sort of intangible stuff is the area where everyone seems the most thrilled with what happened this year with Scottie. And yeah, I think the idea of like him adapting to tailor his game to Brandon Ingram a little bit, and Ingram, just kind of being in a fresh situation that's not literally the New Orleans Pelicans is going to kind of revitalize him as well. He said as
Dedicated
much.
medical staff. What a concept.
Boy, oh boy. Crazy stuff. Yeah. And,
not sharing them with
litany of things.
Football players. What a concept.
In fairness, I think they retired that bit like 3 years ago, and then just hired like three sets of different people year over year.
People have told me this, but every single person who comes out of that organization years late, like seasons later, if not immediately after, are just like, thank God I'm out of there. And I could talk again about how terrible it was.
Yeah. Tough stuff. As far as like the on-court fit, look, I think Scottie stands to benefit a ton from Ingram being on the team. I think we saw, part of the reason they traded for Ingram was it was a really tough go for Scottie as like the lead creative option on this team. And look, part of it was that Quickly was out for the first half of the year. He was supposed to be the co-captain in offensive creation, and he wasn't there for a long stretch, including some of Scottie Barnes' most strugglesome periods. And so, yeah, I just think, if you think about how good Scottie looked next to Pascal within like a totally garbage team construct last year, where it was like Scottie, Pascal doing good things and like OG kind of quiet quitting over there and Dennis Schroeder being Dennis Schroeder over there. There was no space. There was no bench. Like I think they're going to be put in a better position to kind of bring the best out of one another and then have that filter down to the rest of the roster in the way the Scottie Pascal thing, which like they were making pretty sweet 2-man music, but the rest of the band was just like, strumming away on little liquor bottles. Like it just like wasn't really there last year. And I think this year there's just like a lot more in support of those guys, or next year when they come together, like there's going to be more support for them. I think the 3-point shooting from Ingram, like it makes the fit a little bit snugger as well. I think he's a willing passer. I think he's going to fit into the offense just fine based on everything you're hearing from him and the team. And so, yeah, I'm like a little bit more bullish on what this pairing can do, not just because of what these two guys are as players, but because of what else is going on around them, which in a team sport, having more than two players who are working is pretty important, as it turns out. Katie, we're going to come back on the other side, get to some more mailbag questions from the listeners, including one about our dear pal, Kyle Lowry, whose future is up in the air. Is he going to retire? Is he going to take over Garrett Temple's spot on the roster next season? We'll see. We're going to talk about Kyle and how to properly send him off if and when his time in the NBA is done. We'll get to that in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more experts ready to take your business to the next level. Upwork gives flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. And look, you can find someone who help you with like a quick marketing campaign. Maybe you just have a little small job you got to do in sort of the search of a bigger purpose for your company. You can bring in a team and make that work. You can post a job. It's free and simple. And within a day, multiple qualified candidates to choose from will be in your inbox. Visit upwork.com and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Back at it here with Katie Heindl, the purveyor of many basketball-related feelings, etc., over at the newsletter, over at Basketball Feelings, the wonderful newsletter you should go subscribe to as well. One of my best emails every single week. Katie, another question came in from our dear listeners. This one comes from Bryjax in the Discord, asking, let's say Kyle decides after this horrid season in Philly, he's always said he will retire a Raptor. How would you like to see it done to give the GROAT, one of my favorite words to say, it doesn't sound weird off the tongue at all, a fitting send-off? Katie, we've talked about Kyle Lowry maybe more than anybody else on this podcast over the years. He's our guy. How would you like to see this go down? And I guess sort of, it was a weird season in Philly. He didn't play terribly well. The team was a disaster. Just rough, rancid vibes all the way through. I kind of hope he latches on to another team just to kind of have a bit more of a fun send-off. Hey, if he wanted to come back to the Toronto Raptors as a Sage bench fit, I'd be very all right with that. But yeah, where are you at with how you'd like to see this all go down if, in fact, Kyle is retiring at the age of 39 after this season?
This is a very fitting question for us. It's true. I would like to see him out of Philly. Granted, I did want that homecoming to be a lot happier than it was. It's no fault of his that the Sixers are such a hot mess. I don't see staying on there just for the sake of hoping for a better season, being all that, I don't know, great or encouraging. Granted, his relationship with Jared McCain is like one of the silver linings, I think, of that locker room right now. It's really funny to see Kyle, the millennial, interacting with like the very precious McCain, who's just like on TikTok all the time doing dances.
The NBA's like most benevolent Zoomer. Yeah.
And Kyle just kind of in the background, like, first like upset, kind of like confused, and then like coming around to it and being very encouraging. So I'll miss that. That's the only thing I'll miss about him in Philly. I do like the idea, of course, of him coming back to Toronto. I think it would be much more meaningful if he came and had a bench role. Even hell, Temple plays some minutes, so let Kyle can play a couple more minutes. Sure. I think it would be really interesting to see him come back, and honestly, almost for him to like how difficult that might be to step into a sort of background role in this team that he essentially helped pave the road and create. I know we have definitely moved on from that era.
Fully almost, aside from Chris Boucher, who might be gone this summer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, not to say Kyle Lowry's not capable of that, but it's just like, I think that would just be a very interesting thing. We don't really get to see that often in the NBA. And I like it better than him coming for like signing for a day. Right? As he said before, like I'll sign for a day and then retire a Raptor. Selfishly, I can't think of another team that he should go and play for, because you're just with like the CBA implications of the summer kicking in. You're not really looking. Definitely teams are looking for someone in his pay bracket, but those teams are still not going to be probably very fun or competitive. And with all the front office tumultuousness of this season, I also don't want for Kyle Lowry to get into a situation with like a Vivek Ranadive, God forbid.
Oh God.
Just like at this point in his career,
let's keep the Suns, Kyle.
Yeah, like let's keep this guy, let's keep our precious GROAT, I'll say it, away from chaos as much as we can. He is an agent of chaos. but he doesn't need to be plunged into dark chaos.
Yeah, groat. It's like a frog sound almost.
It's how I sounded a lot of this week.
Yeah. Please don't sign with the Suns, Kyle. I really want better than that for you. And yeah, it is the kind of thing where like he was not good this season. You can say it. He was.
I won't. No, I won't.
38 years old, and couldn't really hit any shots, and wasn't a big plus minus guy or anything like that as he typically is. Like this happens. Father time comes for everybody. It's a gigantic bummer.
I mean, the team's pretty trash, Sean.
The team was pretty trash.
Yeah.
When they weren't trash yet, he was also like the first part of the year, he was pretty rough, even when they were trying to be competitive. It's not, look, we love Kyle Lowry, but it's okay to admit when father time is catching up. That's not to say I don't think he can be a contributor on a team next season. But to your point, like, I don't think like a dyed-in-the-wool inner circle contender is looking at Kyle Lowry to say like, hey, like this is a guy that puts us over the top. And so you either retire, which, hey, totally fine. It's been a glorious career. If he decides he wants to go out and do the one-day thing with Toronto, that's totally fine. I was a big advocate, of course, of the Raptors trading for Kyle at the deadline to do the Kevin Garnett homecoming thing that the Wolves did before ruining that relationship again, like 10 years ago. Hopefully they can, patch things up now that Glenn Taylor seems to be officially gone. But, to extend that, if you wanted to bring it back for one more, kick at the can with the team, I would be very on board with that. Again, they might want Garrett Temple back. Garrett Temple seems like he still wants to play. And it seems like there's quite a relationship and a connection there, franchise and player. So maybe that's just their end of bench veteran guy. Maybe Kyle replaces a Chris Boucher if Chris Boucher is going to walk and he slots in as the second end of bench veteran guy. Is that how you want to use two roster spots? Who's to say? But it would be really cool to have one last year of Kyle Lowry just, disseminating wisdom throughout a very young team that I think is kind of trying to take a similar shape to the Kyle Lowry led teams of a decade ago, where it's just like a lot of good players and, maybe not the sort of super high end talent, but the sum of its parts is greater than whatever the saying is. And it'd be nice. So let's say he does retire, Katie. I'm assuming next year they would do the jersey retirement. I would imagine they would have loved to have done it this year if he were not in the league anymore for the 30th anniversary. You would assume it's going to happen pretty soon upon him retiring.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to see that executed? I mean, it's just a jersey retirement. It's usually pretty standard fare. You do a speech, everyone cries, you raise a banner, all that stuff. But is there anything else you'd like? Any, statue stuff? I guess we can get into. Like, can you build a statue in a matter of 6 months? I don't know. You'd have to ask the Statue Makers Guild for that. But where are you at on if in fact he is done? What should the next steps here be for the Raptors?
Let's not ask the Dwayne Wade statue making team. I don't want them anywhere near this. But yeah, I think
small. What? Who did this?
Face. I'm more thinking face. The whole statue is just a butt. It's just short. It's just a butt and short. It's like a person-sized statue of a butt, just to make it really clear. Yeah, I would like to see. You could make it special by doing that. Obviously, they would just do. Yeah, we saw it with Vince's jersey retirement this year, so it would probably be very close and in shades of that. So I think how you up the ante a little bit is get the statue. We've been talking about the statue for years. We're just coming out of this sort of every night is a different celebration, 30-year anniversary season. There's going to be a little bit of a hangover in terms of like, oh, it's not 90s night. It's not 2000s night. We don't have a lot of that next season. I think that would be a nice touch.
Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet. We love Kyle Lowry, and more Kyle Lowry related things to talk about would be damn delightful. If they were to do a logo like Vince Carter style, like they do a logo, where they kind of retrofit the Raptor in the image of Kyle Lowry next season for
it's a charge, but you couldn't really do that. It's just
just like the Raptor,
just a Raptor stiff
position.
Yeah, it would be funny. You could make some t-shirts, but maybe don't. You don't have to do it on the court. Actually, why not?
Or like the Raptor. I think my favorite picture of Kyle Lowry's entire time in Toronto is after the DeMar DeRozan dunk in Detroit, and just like the USA Today image gallery of Kyle just like
Yes.
thrilled in the background. For those not watching, I just made a big fun smiley face. Just look up Kyle Lowry DeMar dunk smile and you'll find it, I'm sure. So maybe like that version of the Raptor with like, they're pack hunters. You get DeMar in Raptor form as well with his arm around him and stuff. I don't know. Get creative. They broke new ground with this logo designed after a guy. Keep on testing new waters. I think it's of course there's also the Raptor has no tail, it's just butt. You could do that. We'll leave that question there, Katie. Come back on the other side. We got two more to rattle through. One that's related to the Toronto Raptors. One that's related to the Toronto Tempo. I'm wearing the hoodie. It's very exciting. We'll do that coming up here in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? I do that all the time between dining out, shopping online, entertainment. It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. And look, I'm a freelancer. I get paid in American dollars. I have way too many bank accounts for one person to have. And I also have a wife and she has her own accounts. And then we have like a shared account for our mortgage and stuff. And it's wonderful to just stick them all in one spot, put them up on the screen, and you can see, oh, these are all my accounts. This is where all my money's going. I can see it all in one place. I don't have to log into a dozen different apps to get a feel for where my money's at. It's a wonderful thing. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Go check them out. Wrapping up a Friday mailbag edition of Locked On Raptors with one of our faves, Katie Heindl, as we dig further into the mailbag. This question comes from Nico in the Locked On Raptors Discord. And he asks, if you could snap your fingers this offseason and fix one thing about the Toronto Raptors, what would it be? Answer with one semi-realistic thing and one thing that's totally abstract. We'll do that, Nico. Katie, snap your fingers. Are you good snapping your fingers, by the way?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Only my right
Pretty good
hand.
snaps.
I can't do anything with my left.
Oh, I'm snapidextrous, as it turns out. I can do it on both. Anyway, that was good ASMR.
Yeah, you should charge for that.
Yeah. The Locked On Raptors ASMR series coming to you this summer. Everyone, Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag. Sorry, Katie. Snap your fingers. Fix one thing about the Raptors. Semi-realistic, totally out there. What you got? Start with your semi-realistic.
Is this for this season or we're forecasting?
I think for like this summer going into next year, you snap the fingers at some point this offseason, whether it's before or after the new league year begins on July 1st is totally up to you.
I think a lot about Emmanuel Quickly still, mostly because I think we're really wanting for him this season. Yeah. So my realistic snap, because I think it's already happening, is for him to get back on track to be in the lineup, right? To be not just healthy but I think to be caught up in his development, and I think caught up with the changes. The one silver lining of Ingram also not being like ready to play when the Raptors traded for him is that it's not like Quickly missed a step in terms of on-court development. So I think if, those two can go away alongside Scottie Barnes this summer in any, runs that the team puts together or any runs they do solo. And then of course, like back at training camp way in the future, they'll all be kind of starting at a clean slate. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the fit of Scottie and Ingram earlier. Like, I think their fit is made easier because Emmanuel Quickly is this really cool on-off-ball player who launches a bazillion threes and kind of offers some sort of gap punching, as it were, around those two guys who draw a lot of attention. I'm pretty into it. And yeah, that's a really good one. I think for me, if I'm snapping my fingers and fixing one thing, it's the designs, it's the logos, the colors. Just make it purple, okay? I know this is a hobby horse of mine on the podcast, but it's a mailbag question, and I'm going to take it where I want it to go. Snap the fingers and make everything purple for the rest of time. It's time, Katie. I got really sad at the last home game thinking, is this going to be it for this court? Like, are you going to use this court 8 times and just never use it again? Can't possibly be true. It's too beautiful. It's too good. I'm concerned because they just cycle through these things like crazy and don't seem to really care when they land on something that rocks. It's just like on to the next design. Thanks, Nike. But like, I don't know, Katie. It's time, I think, to just do the full rebrand. It'll be officially 30 years since the franchise launched next year. They'll celebrate the actual 30th anniversary of the first ever game in early November. Just like, do it. Okay. I'm sick of the red. I'm sick of the chevrons. I want purple back in my life. Maybe I'm being a child of nostalgia too much here, Katie, but I don't think I am.
That's a good one. I'll give my abstract.
Please, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be really boring. This is also like personnel related, but max contract, Jamal Shead.
He rules. I see you're fully bought in, Katie, to Jamal Shead experience.
He's very much in like the wheelhouse of my favorite type of NBA player. And I've been reminded of that watching I don't know what's going to happen to the Grizzlies, but watching Desmond Bane and being like, oh yeah, there's a reason I was obsessed with this guy since before he was a mainstay on that roster. And we were watching him at Summer League, and then Fred VanVleet before him, Kyle Lowry to start them all.
You like guards who are wider than they are tall.
I just love a fast, kind of undersized athlete who can still upend the gravity of a game, and control the pace, and also tends to throw their body around.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet less so, but those other three just whipping themselves around. Balls. Yeah. Shead,
I thought was my favorite end of season press conference on Monday. I don't know if you caught any of what he had to say, but just like a good dude. And it seems like everybody loves that guy within the team. It's rare that a rookie is someone who like sets the culture. And I wouldn't say he set the culture necessarily, but he certainly was a big part of it. And it seems like, they talked about how, I think Jacoby talked about this, about how, or Jamal might have, they were both kind of asked similar questions, but just sort of like Jamal's sort of effervescent personality almost allowed the entire rookie class to kind of come out of their shell a little bit. And that ingratiated them with the older guys on the team. He's sort of this conduit between the older, 24-year-olds and the younger 21-year-olds, if that's necessary. And yeah, just good head on that guy's shoulders, man. He gets it, and I'm very into Jamal Shead in every single possible way. My abstract one, I guess, is like, I don't know, can you get Giannis on the team? Like, can we just finally make that happen? I don't know. It seems like the Bucks are falling into disarray. Just make it happen. I mean, the real one is strife in Denver. Darko calls up his boy Jokic, and there's a little Chavapi date in Rexdale at some point, and everyone just kind of, I want to trade, but to this specific place. Okay, we'll do that. And then he's playing. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Nikola Jokic in Toronto. It's happening in my dreams. Last question here. Speaking of dreaming about players to join your favorite basketball team that plays in Toronto, from Rally Cap in the Discord, our dear pal. Who are your realistic and not at all realistic players you hope the Tempo can acquire and build around, Katie? The Toronto Tempo play basketball in like a year. It's very exciting. And look, I think a lot of this excitement for me comes from how stacked the draft figures to be in years to come because of how stacked college basketball is on the women's side. And it just feels like by default, you're going to get some sick ass players no matter where you're picking. I believe they'll pick like 6th in their first draft next year. They can't pick first per expansion rules, but they could pick first the year after, and that's when Juju Watkins comes out. That would be pretty sweet. But even next year, because so many players opted to go back for the NIL money this year before the new CBA kicks in, like it's going to be kind of a loaded draft class next year. Katie, who you got your eye on? Who are you excited about other than, all of the really good players coming out of college?
Yeah, I mean, I think of somebody like Floje Johnson, who I was actually surprised she didn't go into the draft this year. Sorry, the college basketball of it all. I'm like, do I call them years or seasons? They're not seasons, they're years. Anyway, and I will say we already have an in because I saw Kayla, our friend Kayla Gray was doing some press with her this week. Little interview. So, there's a great bridge there. Yeah, you mentioned Juju, but I think she'll go. I don't know. I feel like just because of what happened to Juju Watkins this year, she might do a full 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, she's not eligible till 2027. She could do till 2028, I believe.
Yeah.
So
I think, and I would like to see her do that. The WNBA is certainly in a rush to have her in it, but I think she should take it at her own pace.
Totally.
Extremely aspirationally and not at all going to happen. Aisha Wilson, welcome to Toronto.
Hey, sounds pretty good to me.
The last realistic thing, I'm unfortunately crunched for time, but this is something I would love to talk about more in depth. Is just the fact that because the WNBA CBA is up for renegotiation this year, and I think during the draft, I don't know if everybody caught it, but they flashed up a graphic and it was basically almost a third, if not more than a third, of current WNBA athletes' contracts are coming up this summer. That is by intention because nobody wants to be signing a new contract before they've negotiated their new CBA, which they've definitely been really emphatic that if it's not what they want, there could be a work stoppage, which I think is very cool and informs just the way we think about or often don't think about basketball as labor. So that said, the basketball side of it means that Toronto is pretty aligned in terms of when they're going to do this big draft, their initial draft, to reap some of that, right? So there are a lot of free agents that are going to be hitting right around the time that Toronto makes its decisions, which is very cool.
100%. The 2026 free agent list. I know you got to get it here, Katie. We'll do it quick. But Jackie Young, Kelsey Mitchell, Jewel Lloyd, Kalia Copper, Arike Agumbawale, Gabby Williams, Satu Sabali, Alyssa Thomas. That's just the first 10 on the list.
I know, it's crazy.
Very exciting times. Cannot wait for the tempo. Brianna Stewart is a free agent. Okay, let's go. But yeah, we're going to leave it there. Katie, thank you so much for rocking with the show. Thanks to the listeners who sent in questions and who also rock with the show. Do you have anything you want to promote, Katie?
Just our newsletter. I'm really proud of the work that we're doing. We've seen such growth, such consistent growth over the season. Everybody, I think, has bought in. We're setting 30 of these things a day, 5 days a week. This is a heavy lift, and there are a lot of people involved. The insight is great. Of course, as we get into the playoffs, we can now get more granular, which I'm quite excited about too. There's also a little bit of wackiness seeping in because I think there's a little, from my end, I will admit there could be a little bit of fatigue sometimes, especially when I today was oh yeah, we wrote about the play-in every day this week. I'm going to shift away from the play-in. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Anyway,
it's pretty depressing this year.
It is. Absolutely. God. Yeah. I shifted to Detroit Knicks, which I don't know if anyone could tell. I'm very excited about. But our newsletter, I would say, more than if you feel I should have subscribed earlier, what's the point in subscribing now? The postseason is very long.
Totally.
There's a lot to
You can also win stuff by subscribing now. Between now and April 30th, you can win up to $2,500 from Best Buy to buy 4 Nintendo Switch 2s or whatever else you want to buy. You can also win a Game Time gift card for $300, a Fanatics gift card for $200 just by signing up between now and the end of the month to the Locked On Raptors newsletter. So go do that. go do that for all of the other newsletters as well, because they're all great. They cover all the teams, and like, it's better to have those emails than shopping emails. I promise you that. Either way, we will leave it there. Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, listeners. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, newsletter, QR code on the screen, link in the description of the podcast. Join the Discord, etc., etc. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you Monday. Bye.